Greetings, students of Algebra 1. So we're on day 3 now. Yesterday we talked about solving equations when there's only one step, the easiest ones there are. But now we're throwing in 2 steps. So we're going to have to do 2 things in order to solve for our variable. So here are the steps for solving 2-step equations. Add or subtract, so do the opposite, to isolate the variable term. So we got to get the variable all by itself. Then multiply or divide to isolate the variable. Check your solution. So we'll see what that means. So first step, and remember with these videos you can always speed it up. If it's taking too long or going too slow, you can always speed it up to 1.25 times as fast. Alright, so very simply, when we're solving an equation, we are trying to get that variable all by itself. Simple as that. Okay, think about, so what is on the left hand side right now? We got that 3 and we have that 7 right there. Those two guys got to get out of there. We got to get that x all by itself. So so here's what we need to do. The first thing we do is isolate. Remember last lesson it was just an x there and all we had to do was subtract 7 from both sides? Well, now it's the same thing, only now we're going to have to deal with that 3 after we do that. So it's just like last time. Let's get that 7 out of there. We're going to isolate the variable term, which is the 3x. So subtract 7, do the same thing on both sides. 3x comes straight down, those are gone, equals 19 take away 7 is a 12. And then going back to yesterday, 3 times some mystery number is 12. We know the answer is 4. Let's use our algebra skills, divide by the coefficient, get him out of there. Have to do the same thing over here. So I get x is equal to 4. Check my work, plug it back in. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 7 is 19. Checks out. Okay, remember we're trying to get this variable all by itself. So who's going first? Well, let's get rid of that 12. Let's draw my line first so I know I got the 2 sides. Subtract 12 on both sides. So I can't, it's not just a q on the left, I just got to bring this negative down. So it's negative q is equal to 11 take away 12. Now I'm the negatives, negative 1. Now we're almost done. But remember, I got to get the variable all by itself, and it can't be a negative in front. So a couple ways to think about this. Really, in disguise, this is a negative 1. Okay? So we could just divide by a negative 1. Divide by a negative 1. And you know, anything divided by itself is just 1. Okay, so I get q is equal to, anything divided by itself is 1. Now let's check it out, make sure it works. 12 minus 1 is 11, so that checks out. Okay, first step, isolate the variable term. So we're trying to get that all by itself. So who's got to go? We got to get rid of that 4. The opposite of a positive 4 is a negative 4. Let's subtract 4 on both sides of the equation. So now we still got the y over 3. That's called a quotient, right? Remember, division is quotient. And then equals, let's do 6 minus 4 makes 2. So some mystery number divided by 3 makes 2. I know it's going to be a 6, but let's double check. How do you undo divided by 3? Multiply by 3. Do it on both sides. Those cancel out, so I'm getting y is equal to 6. Sure enough, 6 over 3 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. Alright. So this one's a little tricky. But the way you have to look at this is your variable term. Okay? So we're going to try to get that box, that h plus 6, all by itself. I mean, think about it like this. If I just gave you this one from yesterday, h divided by 5 equals 2, what would you do? Right, we're trying to get that by itself. Wouldn't you just multiply both sides by 5? Well, this is the same thing. We're trying to get that whole thing by itself first. It's just going to make our lives a lot easier. So, same thing, we're going to multiply by 5, multiply by 5. Why do we do that? Because those cancel out. Now what's left over? It's the h plus 6. Now what's on the right side? 2 times 5 is 10. And finish it off. Subtract 6 on both sides. So final answer, I'm getting h is equal to 4. Go back, check it out. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 divided by 5 is indeed a 2. So why don't you pause the video, try these out on your own, see how you do. You can always look back and rewind to see. This is how you guys are going to learn. If you go back, you have to try these out on your own. If you just wait for me to write it down, right, you have to practice this stuff. Okay, so you test yourself out, and then you watch the video. And then if you get stuck, you know, go back, rewind it, and check it out. Okay? And then tomorrow in class, we're going to clear any questions up. Alright. So, first step, get the variable term by itself. Alright, so how do I get rid of that -7? Well, I know I need to add 7 to both sides. So I'm getting 8y comes down equals 9 plus 7 is a 16. Divide both sides by 8. And I'm getting y is equal to 2. Check it out. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. Alright, I want to get my variable term all by itself first. Okay, so that means that 14 has to go. So let's do that by subtracting 14 from both sides. So I'm getting -3m, don't forget that negative. And -1 minus 14 more, now I'm in the -15. And I need to undo this multiplication. Now here's a big mistake I see people make. They say, oh, I'm going to add 3 to both sides because I see the opposite of a -3 is +3. You have to ask yourself, what is the operation there? It's not subtraction. This is a -3. It says -3 times m. So we're trying to undo multiplication. How do you undo multiplication? Division. So you're going to divide by that coefficient. In this case, -3. So final answer, I get m is equal to, what does a negative divided by a negative get you? Just like a negative times a negative always makes positive. They cancel each other out. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Alright, let's get the variable term by itself. How do you get rid of a -7? I need to add 7, both sides. This quotient comes down, x over 2. 8 plus 7 is 15. And undo this division by multiplying. Multiply by 2, multiply by 2. So I get x is equal to 30. And last one here. Get that variable term all by itself. So I am going to, how do you get rid of a divided by 3? Well, I need to multiply by 3. 3 over 3 is 1. Same thing over here, multiply by 3. So we get the k minus 4 comes straight down. What's left on the right side? 3 times 3 is 9. Now we're trying to get k by itself. How do you do the opposite of a -4? You need to add 4. So I'm getting k is equal to 13. Alright, so now we get into these word problems. Pretty simple. You just got to read them and, you know, make the math statement from it. So the sum, so we got to recognize these words. We know sum means addition, so I'm adding things together. So it says the sum of twice a number, so 2 times some number, let's call it x. That's twice 2 times a number. So the sum of that and 13, so when I add those up, I get 13. Add those up. Is in math means equals, so equals is 75. Alright? And now we got to solve it. What is that mystery number? Okay, so I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides. So 2x comes down, those are goners, equals 75 minus 10 is 65, take away 3 more. 62, divide both sides by that 2, that coefficient, now we get x is equal to 31. 8 plus the quotient, I know quotient is something over something, divided by fraction, of a number, I don't know what it is, I'll call it n for number, and 3. The quotient of a number and 3 is, remember is means equals what? -2. So just like previous side, we need to isolate that, so let's subtract that 8, get him out of there. So we have n over 3, n divided by 3 equals -2 minus 8 more, now we're big, -10. And finally we need to multiply both sides by 3. So I'm getting n is equal to -30. Alright, perimeter of a tennis court is 228. What are the dimensions? So remember, perimeter is just a distance all the way around, right? So you got to add up all the sides. So that's what it did over here. If this side is W, if it's a rectangle, this side also has to be W. So that's where those came from. This is 2W plus 6. This has got to be 2W plus 6. That's why I have 2 of those. And you add them all together and you get 228. So how many W's do I got? Let's combine like terms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 W's. And how many constants do I have? 6 there is 12. Equals 228. So 6W, getting ahead of myself here. I need to subtract 12 from both sides. So I'm getting 6W is equal to, this is going to be 2 take away 10 is 18, so 16. And what's that? 216 divided by 6 makes W is equal to 36. So the width of this would be 36 because W is 36. Alright, why don't you pause the video and try these on your own? So they're a little tricky when you're first starting them, but you get the hang of it. The difference of twice a number and 7, difference in math means minus. So the difference of twice, just like before, twice a number, 2n, 2x, whatever. Remember, the variables doesn't matter. You can call it n, x, z. The difference between twice a number and 7, so the difference between those two is equals 9. So let's add 7 to both sides. So I get 2n is equal to 16. Divide both sides by 2. I get n is equal to 8. 10 less than the quotient of a number in 3. Let's start with, so just because this comes first doesn't mean the 10 comes first. You got to kind of think about what it means. It says 10 less than something, right? If I had 10 less than 20, wouldn't it be 20 minus 10 because it's 10 less than 20? Same thing here. 10 less than this quotient of a number and 3. So 10 less than the quotient, so 10 less than that quotient there, so 10 less than the quotient is 6. Alright, so we need to add 10 to both sides. Sometimes you can draw a line underneath, so I get n over 3 is equal to 16. Then you're going to multiply both sides by 3. So I get n is equal to 48. Alright, a parallelogram. So if you haven't heard about those before, the opposite sides are parallel and the opposite sides are the same, just like the rectangle as far as length. So just add them all up. And they're saying that the perimeter, if you add up all the sides, is 102. Is 102. Alright, well, how many m's do I got? Did I do this right? 3m, 3m. Oh, that should be a So how many m's do I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I get 8m, just combine like terms, add them all up. And that says 8 times n, m, so I need to divide both sides by 8. And I am getting m is equal to 12.75. That's it. Alright, that's all for today. I will see you in class. Have a great one.